started discussing internal lexicons since the last two sessions. Right, who is ready for today's presentation? We can have just one presentation today. I am recording it, yes. I push the button of recording. Right. Who will present today? Just give the name then, right? So, we had a discussion of internal lexicon based on, okay, Zoha, alright. Hey, I need the last name. Zoha who? Abdul Razak, alright, that's it then. We talked about three major sub-topic about internal lexicon. That is how do we organize the information. We have about words, the different information, phonological, syntactic, semantic, morphological, knowledge about the word, and then we talked about the models regarding the organizations of internal lexicon. We pointed to hierarchical models and also a spreading activation model, the problem and the revisions also was made clear in last session, the last two sessions. And now today we will focus on the topic of models of lexical access. One of the most important aspects of internal lexicon discussion, because when we organize, we learn a word and we organize the related information, we want to retrieve it in order to be able to take part in language communication or language use, right? And before I start, and in this discussion, we learned about the models of lexical access and also variables that influence lexical access and also appraising models of lexical access. Do you know how do you mean by appraise? To appraise a model, it means what? Appraising the model. Appraising the model means evaluation or the assessing, okay? That is to look at something critically in order to find out the positive and also the negative points about something, right? So let's move to first model of lexical access. Three models are discussed, okay, and the definitions offered and the workings of models offered in the textbooks are simple to follow, and I try to be slow and deliberate in giving the explanation of each model. But before I start explaining each model, I like to mention two preliminary points about lexical access, right? We need to access the words we store in our internal lexicon in order to be able to take part in language communication, all right? And in language communication, there is the speaker, like right now, I am talking to you, so I'm the speaker, okay? And you are listening to me as the hearer. So both sides of the party involved in language communication needs to access their internal dictionary, you see? So let's see what is the route we will take as the speaker and the hearer. In the first place, speaker, that is Right now, I am entering the lexicon in order to search for the words which matches the meaning I want to deliver. Now I want to talk about lexical excess. The meaning is this. Now I refer to my internal dictionary to use, in order to retrieve the phonological structure of appropriate words to convey the meaning I am constructing for a sentence. I'm using sentences, and my sentences are based on the phonological forms, which matches the meaning I want to uh, deliver to you. So in fact, the speaker is based on the meaning he wants to, or she wants to deliver. Search the internal lexicon. On the other side, the hearer. Now you are listening to me, right? Your task is the opposite, right? I am encoding, then you decode. How you use the phonological representation, okay? The phonological representation, that is the information from acoustic signal. You remember we talked about the acoustic signals. Now you rely on the words I'm pronouncing. That is I provide you with phonological information, and in this way you retrieve information about the meaning, right? So uh, the hearer, in your internal lexicon, you look for a lexical entry whose phonological representation matches the one you are hearing. So, since you have implicit knowledge of the phonological system of the language, you can do this very easily, right? So, and you'll see all these process, happens very fast. That is, the speed of lexical retrieval is remarkable, both on the side of the speaker and also on the side of the hearer, right? You will become surprised at the fast rate of lexical access. It is based on the experiments done. It is reported that lexical access takes a mere fraction, of a second. That is in milliseconds, right? In Persian, says that Kasri Asaniya. I don't know if you know Persian there. So it's a very, very minute time frame in seconds, right? In order to find a lexicon of a word in a lexicon. And this lexicon, internal lexicon, is a huge stock. Is a huge store of words, estimating to 80,000 items. No, 80,000 items are stored based on your language background, and you are able to follow this speaker, by accessing the words, the meaning which matches the phonological information coming to you, and follow the course of communication. You see? And so these 2 points indicates the highlights the importance and significance of lexical retrieval for both the hearer and the speaker, right? Now, because of this importance and significance attached to lexical retrieval, a number of the models have been proposed by the scholars and researchers in the realm of psycholinguistics. One of the early models are search model, right? A search model was proposed by Foster. Okay. In 1976, I was looking for the date. Sorry, I haven't given it here. And 1979. Okay. And in this model, okay, the components rely on in order to retrieve the lexical items are two kinds, right? That is, based on this model, when we want to find lexical items in our internal dictionary, we will search through two files. That is, takes these properties or components as two files, right? Like when you want to look up the dictionary, or right, when you want to look up for some documents, you search files, right? You will do the same. Then you want to find out about the lexical items in your internal lexicon. These two files are orthographic and phonetic properties. In simple words, orthographic is the spelling, right? Yeah, so I'll come to the frequency. I'll explain it to you. And phonetic properties means the pronunciation. That is, one searches for the word in terms of spelling and its pronunciation, right? Good. And each of these is organized in descending order of the frequency, okay? When it says descending order of frequency, it means that the more frequent words, it says the more frequent words in terms of pronunciation and spelling will be retrieved, will be recalled or accessed, okay, faster, right? Good. This is how they mean by descending order of frequency, right? Okay. That is, you will access the words such as bag, big, right? Easier than bat, for example. Okay. Compare big, bag with bat. Which ones are more frequent? Okay. Big, bag, and then bat. So yes, big or bag. These are more frequent in terms of both pronunciation and spelling. Yeah? So you can access them easier and faster. And then Carol explained that more frequent words are searched before low frequency words. And when the input is matched to one of the items in one of the two bins, a pointer to an entry in the master lexicon is retrieved. That is, whether the word is more frequent in terms of spelling or in the terms of voicing or pronunciation, they will be retrieved with short duration. Yeah, shortened duration. Huh? This is shortation. I don't know how you mean by shortation. Probably you mean by short period, right? Huh? But one problem is mentioned by Foster's model. Okay, what is that problem? It assumes that lexicon is autonomous and independent, right? Of the other system involved in language processing. As we stated, this model is just based on orthographic and phonetic properties. How about syntactic? How about semantic? So this is a problem attached to this model. It did not take into account the other files related to language processing. That is, when we want to process language, we resort to different files, different informations of that lexical item. So it is both syntactic and also uh, semantic properties, right? This model, according to model, activations of the words from the lexicon is not influenced by the syntactic or semantic factors, yeah? But you all know that sometimes, based on the meaning or the syntactic structure of a word, we are able to retrieve that word, especially when it is a missing part of a context. That is, when the context is provided for us. Okay, if you remember the that says phonemic restoration, that is the two words. This is il, okay, il on the axle, You remember? We had such phrases, il on the axle. So it says because of it is in the context, and because of the meaning in this missing part is there is what is will on the axle, not peel. Okay, not heel, right? It is will, not heel, right? So the problem with this search model, it is not directly influenced by syntactic and semantic factors, okay? Later on, in 1987 and 1989, this model have been revised, okay? That is, the revised models has separate components for each file bin. These syntactic and semantic files were also added as the files for searching and arriving at the right lexical item, right? Now, the second model to review is Logogen model. Logogen model. Logogen model was devised by Martin 1969. Okay, and Logogen in fact specifies the word's various attributes, right? It is of again one of the earliest activation model. Okay, which is activation of the lexicon. Based on this model, each word or morpheme in the lexicon is represented as a logogen, okay, which specifies the word's various attributes. What are the various attributes? They are semantic, orthography, phonological, and so on. You will see that all the attributes missing from search model are included in the Logogen model, and they are not separate, but they are interact with each other. And yeah, as here texted by Zainab Jabbar Muhammad, these activations of different sources of knowledge about the words is done through two passages, through two routes, through two paths. Okay, one is sensory input, and also contextual information. Sorry, sensory input or contextual information. Now, let's look at the How do we mean by sensory input? By sensory input means orthographic or phonological stimuli, right? That is, you will hear a word pronunciation, or you will see it. You will see its spelling in printed material, and this helps you to retrieve that word, right? Okay, and here, in fact, this root acts as a scoreboard. When the counter rises above a pre-designated threshold, the item is recognized. Okay, like when you will hear it says you hear ba. Okay, when you are listening. Okay, this ba, because it can be bag, right? When you hear ba, then you can guess whether it is bag. Okay, bat, right? Ban, right? So all these three words are activated until you arrive at a threshold, and you will hear the whole, okay, the speech, right? And then it says no, it is bag rather than bad, right? So the input stimulus should match the login, right? This is the one route through which you can retrieve and access the desired word, the specific words. The other is through the contextual information. We talked a lot about the importance of contextual information in retrieving the different words, the missing parts. If you recall about garden path statements, right? Also, okay, phonemic restoration, right? Based on contextual information, you are provided with syntactic and semantic structures, so you can arrive at the right meaning quickly. Like her closest relatives were appointed as her legal guardian, right? The guardian, if it is presented to you as a separate word, you may uh, be confused with the different meaning of guardian. Okay, guardian, it can be an army support. Okay, a man who serves in army. Yes, but here when it says legal guardian in this a in this statement, then there is a different meaning, right? This trustee. Okay, a person who, okay, serves as the legal, okay, uh, supporter, okay, as a substitute for your father, deceased father, and the like, right? Or in this statement, uh, I give you, right? Okay, that is the three men, the the three gunmen approached the bank, but okay, the so far when you come across this statement, you hear it. It says there are three. Sorry, it should be three. Mhm. The three gunmen approached the bank. So far, what comes to your mind concerning the meaning of bank? So you recognize its phonological form, you recognize its spelling and its pronunciation. But when it comes to meaning, yeah, it says it's the place where money kept, right? That's it. The building for saving the money, right? But if I continue, it says, uh, but the boat already left. Okay? Now I continue the same statement. Right? But the boat already left. Right? So now you are confused. Okay? And you will find out that, okay? Yes, here the bank means the side of the river because of this is boat, because of the neighboring words, neighboring context. So it seems that this model is that says a more comprehensive model because it tell us, it paves the way for lexical access through a number of routes, sensory input and also contextual information. It has this searching for words based on these different types of files means that has an implication for us in our as a language teachers, as instructors, that in teaching the vocabularies we need to provide them a context for each lexical items rather than presenting them as a isolated list of key words. Correct? Any questions so far? And let's review the next model as cohort model. Cohort model was proposed in the first place by people named Marcel Wilson. Marcel Wilson in 1987, 1990, Marcel Wilson and his colleagues, they noticed several aspects of spoken word recognition. It is a model of spoken word recognition which needed to be taken into consideration in a model of lexical access, right? Based on this model, listener recognized words very rapidly within milliseconds of the beginning of the words. This means that the initial parts of the word is very important in its retrieval. Okay, it points to the phenomena of tip of tongue, right? How can we separate the words in the sentence? I don't understand your point. We can, when you present a lessons, for example, you want to teach a reading text, and you can separate, you can note and each reading passage includes a number of keywords, right? Unknown words. You can take them out of the passage and present them in a separate list, and talk about their ask students to pronounce them and also to learn their spelling and their pronunciation. But this is not enough, all right? In order to make students know about the different aspects of the meanings attached to that word, we need to provide them in sentences, right? That is to provide a context, like the example sentence I gave you. All right, very good. So, since the initial part of the word is very important in recalling the in retrieving any lexical item. So, for this reason, in the literature, it is stated that the cohort model predicts the initial part of a word. Predicts the initial part of a word is very important, more important for lexical access than its end. All right. In Persian, it says, "Please tell me the first part." Okay. or tell me the first word, tell me the first letter, then I recall the word. This is how does it begin? The word begins with be or te. All right, take. Okay, all right. This is very helpful, right? And this prediction has been confirmed by different kinds of experiments, all right? And it is stated that a mispronunciation the beginning of the words are detected more accurately than our mispronunciation at the end of the words. Okay. In case of phoneme, restoration effect is more robust when the missing phonemes is in the middle or at the end of the word rather than at the beginning, as reported by Marsland, Wilson, and Welsh, 1979. Okay, and it says final consonants are more frequently involved in the sleeps of the ears than are initial consonants, right? So the covered model, okay, assume that every word in the lexicon has some resting level of activation, okay. Then stimulation by matching phonological information increases increases a word's level of activation, right? And then, all right, this model accounts for the auditory word recognitions, all right, and three stages of spoken word recognition. When you are hearing a word like what you are doing right now. A set of lexical candidates is activated, and among all those, one member is selected. And these selected items is integrated in the ongoing semantic and syntactic context, such Angela misplaced her ba. As soon as you hear ba, it is ba, bag, bath, bath. All right, and then based on the information provided, you can arrive at the right meaning. So in fact, there are multiple sources of information. So the core of this model is that on hearing a spoken word, a number of candidate words are activated, and based on contextual information, you will access the right one. But this, it says, the activation level of different items vary as the function of their similarity to incoming signals. And as soon as the information is complete, the complete information is given to you, then you will eliminate some of the initial candidates until you will reach a threshold. And in fact, this is the context of a spoken sentence, which narrows the initial cohort. So overall, according to this model, when you hear a word, you saw a number of candidates are activated, but as the speakers move on, carry on, then a number of initial candidates are deleted, and you will access the right spoken word which fits that context. Okay, so for this reason, we can claim that based on this model, context of a spoken sentence narrows the initial cohort, right? And more phonological information or sentence, okay, enables you to delete more candidates, all right? And it's a very frequent experience for us, okay, especially in tips of tongue phenomena, TOT, tip of tongue phenomena, and also, okay, it says, no, this is not the word I'm looking for that for, okay, it is the other word based on contextual information, okay. So it is neighborhood density. It's a factor that affects retrieval times for words. The word's neighborhood consists of all the lexical items that are phonologically similar. We stated that the number of similar candidates are activated. Another term for this a set of candidates, initial candidates, are neighborhood density. Okay, neighborhood density. Okay, neighborhood. Now here I need, yeah, right, neighborhood, yes. Okay, neighborhood density, right. It consists of all lexical items that are phonologically similar, right? Bag, bath, bat, okay? Uh, and some words have larger cohort than the others, right? Like big, bag, book. Yes. Okay, there are. If you look up the dictionary, you'll see that some of the words, in terms of their initial part, includes a large, okay, a large number of lexical entry in comparing, for example, the words which begins, compare the words which begins with be rather than with z. All right. So the number of the words in the under the be with different vowels, ba, be, ba, beg. There are more than the words which starts with the consonant z or x, right? So this is referred to as neighboring and density, right? Some words have larger cohort than the others. For example, the word coat has many words that are phonologically similar to it, so it is said to come from a dense neighborhood. In contrast, the neighborhood for a word like crepe is more scarce. So words with larger phonological neighborhood take longer to retrieve than those from the smaller neighborhood. So these are the three models, okay, related to lexical excess and lexical item retrieval. If you don't have question, I shift to the other subtopic related to lexical internal lexicon, and this is the variables that influence a lexical access. They are simple and familiar to you, right? The last idea, okay, neighborhood density. Yes, okay, it says neighborhood density, it means that some words in some lexical entries, all right, include a large cohort. That is, a large number of the words come with a similar, okay, initial parts. Like if you look up the dictionary, right, you will see a number of the words appear under be, right, or be, okay. So this is a large number of, okay, cohort. By cohort means the word. A large number of cohort appears and these initial parts, okay, if you look at the dictionary, okay. So it says that the words, some words beginning with with different vowels have a large neighborhood, okay, which are similar in pronunciation, while some words whose initial part begins with, for example, z, okay, like like zero, right? Z. If you compare the words beginning with z rather than B, then you will see the number of the words under Z is what is less. So these words enjoy, okay, less neighborhood density, okay. It's based on the phonological rules of that, right? Based on the language phonological rules, right? Less words begin with a Z or X or W in comparing with the consonants such as B or P or the, right? This matter of like yes, right, rhythm, right? Any other question? A 5 minute break, then I'll be back to talk about these variables. Good? Alright, a 5 minute break so I can take it to drink a tea, a cup of tea. Thank you. I am back again. Are you ready for the next second part? I hope you are fresh. Right. Now we talked about variables that influence lexical excess. One is word frequency. As mentioned before, one of the major factors, the more frequent the word is, alright, the better we recall it in terms of the ease and the speed of lexical retrieval. In this regard, uh, we need to point to the FOSS study entitled Phoneme Monitoring. This is the task uh, focused on FOSS study in order to uh, pinpoint, highlight the importance of frequency. The role of word frequency has been demonstrated in phoneme monitoring. In this task, the participant listen to continuous speech passage and do two things. That is, they were provided with listening material, continuous listening material, and they were asked to comprehend the passage and listen for a target phoneme, such as be. In some instances, the target phoneme followed a high frequency word. In other instances, it was followed by a low frequency word. The results were clear. Alright, the phoneme was recalled and retrieved faster and easier when it appeared after a high frequency word. Monitoring times increased slightly after a low frequency word. That is. The explanation of these results is that so when both task, phoneme monitoring and comprehension, we draw on some limited pool of resources. Then if one of the tasks become more difficult, it might be affect the others. Alright. Also, in another study, that is in order to clarify the importance of uh, the level of the frequency of the words. It is visual task, lexical decision task. You remember before we talked about the lexical decision task in terms of the senses of the words, the relations of the words in terms of the different relations exist, and one word is given to the learners, to the participant, and they are asked to retrieve uh, the words associated with that one. Here, okay, uh, it is a visual task, of course. It is this decision, lexical decision task is a visual task. A participant sees a string of letters and must rapidly decide whether the string is a word, like ordinarily in lexical decision studies. The stimuli are presented one at a time, and if we look at list 1 and 2 on page 121, right? Okay. Um, it consists of words and non-words. In lexical decision task, string or sets of words and non-words are words, and possible words and non-words are given in a language, and for each item on the list we should say yes aloud if it is a word and no if it is non-word. Okay, so if you compare list 1 and list 2, you will see that list 1 takes less time, or it takes a few more seconds to complete than list 2, because list 1 takes more time because the words in list 1 are low in frequency than the corresponding words in list 2, right? Right? If you look at list 2, will have Words such as relief, history, develop, right? Busy, effort, match, okay, pleasant, point. These are more frequent than if you look at the words in the list one. It looks like the TOEFL and IELTS tests, vocabulary part. Usually we encounter difficult unknown words. Yeah, it takes more time. So again, the results of these experiments reveals that we will recognize the more frequent words shorter and faster. The other experiments in relation to the role of word frequency is in the normal reading eye fixation time. Okay, normal reading. You'll see when you are reading a passage, as personally, I believe it's a frequent experience for all of us in reading the passages. When we come across difficult, unknown words, the amount of eye fixation will increases. That is, we will pause on that word, we will linger on that specific word in order to recognize. So in this normal reading eye fixation, the uh, the span time of fixation on unknown words or more frequent words were measured, and the result shows that the mm, reaction eye fixation time for the unfamiliar difficult words were more than the familiar and more frequent word. Okay, so this is the role of word frequency in normal reading. Okay, of course, at the end of the explanation related to word frequency, mm, these two tasks, this lexical decision task and also phoneme monitoring, they are criticized for being artificial and not reflecting language processes as they occur outside the laboratory. That is, among these three tasks, lexical decision task, phoneme monitoring, and normal reading, just normal reading, is an instance of natural language processing in which it has been revealed that eye fixation on unfamiliar words and unknown words are longer than on familiar and more frequent words, right? Let's move to phonological variables. As you recall, in our discussion of speech perception, we pointed to the impact of phonological variables in terms of okay, pronunciation, stress, intonation, pattern, okay, on the perception of speech. We learned that if we the shift of stress causes okay shift in meaning, and then it becomes evidences present but present. All right, you see, an intonational pattern. Okay, different intonational pattern are used for different statements and different questions from declarative statements. The rate of speech, especially the rate of speech, affects our word recognition. In rapid speech, the vowels are minimized, okay, are shortened. Like I cannot play violin. It is in the normal rate of speech, but when we are fast, you cannot recognize whether it is the negative form of can or the positive affirmative. says cannot. It cannot play violin. Okay, violin. It cannot. Right? Or you see that the vowels are reduced. This is okay. The library had not been closed. Okay, hadn't been. The library hadn't been closed, and so we have reduction in the durations of the vowels, and all these. We learned that there is a continuous interplay of bottom-up and top-down factors of work based on this phonological variable, right? Then syntactic category. The syntactic category, okay. There is a difference in terms of the high and low frequency in open class. You remember open class words, open class words, right? Or content words. You recall? Content. Open class or content words. Like nouns, adjectives, adverb. These are content words. And when content words are more frequent content words are easily retrieved rather than the low frequent content words. But in terms of the closed class, that is the function words, like preposition, closed preposition are closed class work. Prepositions, demonstrators, right? Determiners, okay, they are closed class. And there is no difference in terms of the high frequency or low frequency word. The high frequency, low frequency does not affect the retrieval. Let's move to other. Okay, morphological complexity. All right. Here, the important point is about distinguishing between affixes of the words and the base. You will see it has been reported based on the experiments that the retrieval of some of the affixes takes longer than the others. For example, in terms of the response time, it takes meant is easier. That is measurement. Okay, like measurement. Retrieving meant is easier in comparing with ends such as admittance, right? In comparing with ION like transition, like admission, right? This is the main point behind this. And and based on the I remember I explained about this point that based on the experiments, a word such as decision, which is a combination of the base word decide with a separate uh, would be stored as a base word separate from its ION. So in recalling decision, the base word and the morphemes then are united. Right? One argument for this arrangement that it activates some storage economy, that we store the base words, and then when we retrieve them, we will retrieve the base word with the affix, and in this way we save more resources. Okay, and in this way we don't have to store all the various forms of the words, but only the base and the set of morphemes used throughout the language, right? But there is one counter argument against this, that in this way, instead of accessing a single word, that is decision as a unit, we would have to access both base and morphemes and then combine them, right? Yeah, importance, right. Uh, the argument is about how do we store, whether we store just the base and then we retrieve base plus the morphemes, or do we store them as a unit, right? And which one is more economical and more, it says, natural in terms of the language processing, okay? Whether there is independent storage or combined storage, right? That's it. And in this regards, the similar conclusions were drawn by Taft and Forster. They assume that a word is analyzed into its morphological components and then the base word is accessed. A single morpheme word would be accessed directly. A prefixed word would go through an initial prefix stripping stage. If you do you remember last session I mentioned morpheme stripping, okay? That is in storing the words which is derivational. We first strip it of the morpheme, the bound morpheme, and then we will store it. After the prefix has been stripped, then a search for the base word is undertaken. If successful, the final stage compares the prefix and the base word to see whether they are compatible. Right? This is enough for morphological complexity. The other is semantic priming. Right? The semantic prime. When it says prime, means to provide a stimulus in order to remember or recall a word. This semantic priming occurs when a word presented earlier activates another. So a word is given and then it helps you activate the target word. Good? Right. So in the first phase, a priming stimulus is presented, like for example, nurse is presented, you recall doctor, right? In the second also, the target is presented. Then the participants make some response to it, and the time taken to make this response is recorded. The response could take many forms, but two of the most commonly used tasks are to ask people to name the word or to decide whether the string is a word. Okay, like a lexical decision task. Okay, and it takes the time needed to classify the target butter as a word varied with priming stimulus. Times were shorter when the prime was bread rather than it was a nurse. Okay, so here we'll have semantic priming, the related semantic priming. Certainly, if the stimuli is okay, versus bread, then you recall the prime is bread. Okay, you easily uh, recall the target word butter, right? But if it is nurse, okay, they are semantically unrelated, right? Like doctor, okay, as a target word being primed by nurse. Okay? So the word nurse is given as a prime, and we recall the doctor as the target. This is semantic priming. The other term for semantic priming is associative priming. Okay. Also, we have for priming, like table and fable. Table as a prime. Based on this, okay, there is a similarity in terms of the form. Yeah, this is semantic priming and form priming. Like table, if the word table is given as a prime, it activates able and fable, right? As target words. As target words. So this semantic priming also it's a technique for increasing the learner's stock of vocabulary, right? So this is whenever you want them to mention a new keywords, newly learned words, you can make use of the words which are similar in terms of meaning and also in terms of the pronunciation. Right? That is, uh, check them on the synonyms, on the antonyms, all right, as in care, activate, car. No, Qasim. It is not similar. Care or cake, okay? Or at least care and came, yeah? This is care as a stimulus, okay? Activates, okay? Cake, right? This is form priming, yeah? Like in minimal pairs. It sounds like a minimal pairs, okay? And it can be done for the bilingual, right? In bilingualism, such kind of lexical decision, priming, semantic priming really works, right? So lexical, and now let's shift to right lexical ambiguity. Okay, we discuss it adequately. If you remember garden path statements, right? Uh, word frequency has an so far we learned that word frequency has an effect in sentence processing, similar to its effect on lexical decision task. Okay, ambiguity is dealt with in processing. Is the ambiguity process is of central concern in psycholinguistics. Okay, because it's frequent in human language. Alright. As an example, majority of 1,000 most common words in English are multiply ambiguous. Yet people are rarely aware of making decisions about word meaning, yeah, and getting the correct meaning given a specific sentence context. All right. I gave you the example. The two gunmen drew their guns and approached the bank. Okay, but the boat was already moving down the river. The different meanings of the bank, and okay, how can we retrieve the exact meaning or the right interpretation? As in, this is garden path statements by providing enough context. Okay, and So it is, as I stated, a significant property of the language. Other examples are rapid writing. It is uninjured hands saved from loss of the content of the capsized canoe. Right? Versus writing here. Writing in the first place has different meaning. Right? Or the man here started to drill before the truck arrived. Says drilling has different meaning, huh? The drill should be, of course. Okay. He says, how about the meaning of writing here? This is if you hear, of course, the sentence. This writing means the act of putting down, making a note, right? But when we says writing, this says turn right here. It's the meaning of direction here, and this will causes ambiguity because of the homophone. These words is homophone. Here we have the phenomena of homophone. Okay, and there is nothing in the sentence to refute this interpretation until we get to the end of the sentence. For the man started to drill before the truck arrived. Drill before. And drilling is ambiguous words. It means practicing, marching, practice drill, and also means making a hole. So uh, So, also another point, what is important in removing the ambiguity in retrieving the right meaning is through providing contextualization. But sometimes this contextual will have the phenomena of contextual bias versus meaning frequency, all right? Like this in these two statements. The jealous husband read the letter, and the antique typewriter was missing a letter. Okay? In the first statement, okay, the context is biased toward the what? The uh, less frequent meaning of the letter. The most frequent meaning of letter is a part of the alphabet, right? But here, okay, because of the contextual bias, we are able to retrieve the second less frequent meaning of letter, okay, as a piece of written note much faster than the others. Okay, so it says even in the presence of a strong biasing context, multiple meaning of ambiguous words are briefly activated. By contextual bias, it means that although the context leads us to the another meaning of letter, still experiment shows that we will, in facing ambiguous statements, we will activate multiple meaning. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And then a praising model of lexical models. Okay. So let's ask Abdul Razak to do his presentation because it is 7:20. Abdul Razak, are you ready? Ali Hassan Musa, Abdul Razak. Now you are a presenter. Okay. Make your presenter. Which one? Number 2, Ali Hassan Musa. So next time we will continue with a raising model of lexical models. Of course, you can do it yourself at home. Read it, do it self-reading. So we start chapter 6, okay? All right. Next time we will focus on chapter 6. Thank you. I shared this PowerPoint on offline at LMS for you. Now, Abdul Razak.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Zoha.
Yes, doctor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me, doctor?
Yeah, just louder, please. I need to turn off my mic so your voice will be heard louder.
Visual linguistics, audible effect, pupil size, evidence for a sequential process. In our physical environment, as well as in many experimental paradigms, we need to determine whether or not the stimulus that occurs is appropriate for us. Furthermore, stimuli have varying probabilities of appearing. Both decision making and the differences between rare and frequent stimuli, strange ball effects, are described as affecting pupil dilation. However, surprisingly, standardized investigations of pupillometry in both factors are still rare. In two experiments, both factors as well as interaction between them were investigated. Participants completed the task of matching the sequential letters. In this task, the stimulus probability and letters matching decision making were independently manipulated. As dependent variables, pupil dilation and reaction time were evaluated. When looking at the data structure better, no major effect of stimulus probability was found. Instead, audible effects only appeared when the stimuli were relevant to the goal for the participants. The results are discussed in the light of common theoretical concepts of decision making and the likelihood of motivation. Finally, four theories of each factor were proposed, an integrated framework for the effects of decision making and stimulation features on pupil dilation. The results indicate significant pupil dilation of the target compared to distracting characters even when the targets are frequent and distractions are rare. The results are discussed in the light of common theoretical concepts of decision making and motivation potential. Finally, the dilation of the pupil. In our physical environment, as well as in many experimental models, we need to determine whether the stimulus that occurs is appropriate for us or not. Moreover, the stimuli have varying probabilities of appearing. Both decision making and the difference between rare and repetitive rare and repetitive stimuli, strange ball effects, are described to affect pupil dilation. Surprisingly, standardized investigations of pupillometry in both factors are still rare. In two experiments, both factors as well as the interaction between them were investigating. Participants completed the task of matching sequential letters. In this task, the stimulus, probability, and letter matching decision-making were independently manipulated. As dependent variables, pupil dilation and reaction time were evaluated. The results indicate a clear subject-pupil dilation compared to distraction characters even when the targets are repetitive and the distracting factors are rare. When looking at the data structure better, no major effects of stimulus probability was found. Instead, audible effects only appeared when the stimuli were relevant to the goal for the participants. The results are discussed in the light of common theoretical concepts of decision making and potential stimulus. Finally, for theories of each factor, we propose an integrated framework for this. Effects of decision making and stimulation features on pupil dilation. All behaviors may be perceived as being based on decisions, whether it is applying for a job, a program of studies, or simple choice such as drinking black or green tea. Whatever decision is reached at a particular time, it will shape the upcoming perception and behavior. Understanding perception and behavior can be considered one, if not the primary goal of physiological research. Besides analyzing behavior, measures such as reaction times, physiological indicators are becoming increasingly common as they may provide more accurate information about how decision-making process develop besides change in brightness or due to accommodation. The diameter of the pupil reflects fluential in central nervous activation, while the exact neural connections are still not fully understood. Differences in pupil size are related to the activity in the locus coeruleus and the associated norepinephrine system with the high temporal resolution. A variety of physiological processes have been closely investigating using pupil diameter, ranging from cognitive load, Hess and Fall, 1964, for example, through emotional activation. Ehlers, Strach, George, Hack, 2016, for example. Intoxication rewards meanwhile. The results show that target stimuli do indeed elicit stronger pupillary dilation that this preserved. Again, in the visible model digital, digital 2014, structural 2018, for example. However, as of today, the interaction between stimulus probability and decision making in their effects on a pupil size has not been further investigated. In the next two paragraphs, we will soon present the current literature on decision, choice making, and the effects of wired balls, as well as their interaction with the mydrices. Here, we will also describe the effects as investigations of pupils are still ready. Yes, I finished that, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here and I listen to you. Okay, you need Zoha. Thank you for your presentation, but you need to improve your pronunciation of some keywords. All right. I thank you all because you have a class at 8 o'clock. I stop the class here. I'll see you next time in order to review chapter 6 in Carol. Thank you. Have a good evening. I'm going to stop recording and end the meeting. Bye bye. Take care.